I couldn't wait. It's Romania Black, and look, I'm recording this before I go on my vacation, and I couldn't wait. I was like, oh, I'll go on my vacation, I'll get back and record it. And no, that didn't happen because Gunbuster, Romania Black, Gunbuster, episode 3 was last week. We met Smith Torin. We greeted him and said goodbye to him in the same episode. And it was like, I wasn't expecting that. I wasn't expecting our girl, Noriko, to have had her first love and loss, well, not counting her dad, in the same episode. This series is really good, and I have a lot of fun with it, and I'm really excited about that. So, yeah! Anyway, I'm super excited, y'all, about this episode. I have 2 comments I want to talk about before we dive in. They're both from episode 2, so I have a feeling that when I record episode 5, I'm going to have a lot of comments for episode 3, I'm sure. But these, and from episode 2 on YouTube, but from Patreon, Santiago says, when I saw the content warning in the first episode of this, I immediately thought, oh, so either the subject matter is very harrowing or there are nipples in this. Turns out it was nipples. Very funny how contentious nipples are for censors. Contentious nipples for censors is an amazing phrase. But yeah, you can't show them boobies. No nipples for days. But yeah, I still think this series has some harrowing moments. I feel like last episode was pretty harrowing. The death scene with Smith is still embedded into my brain. It's just the silence of it and just the fact that it happens and that's it. It just gets you. So yeah. But the content warning, I was really worried in episode 1 about that content warning. So far, it has been pretty standard run-of-the-mill, like, oh, okay, that's what we had to deal with. But I am a little bit fearful. We only have 3 episodes left, and we're at the halfway point. And usually you would think this episode's going to be building up to the climax, and the climax is going to happen episode 5, and then episode 6 is the down. We'll talk more. I feel like in episode 5 we'll need to talk about scenarios, and we'll probably talk about it in this discussion for episode 4 of what this show could do, because only having 6 episodes does not leave you a lot of wiggle room, which we need to talk about. So yeah, we'll have that in just a moment. And then Sunspots said for episode 2, it's great to see you're having a good time with the campy and dramatic elements of the show, and there's plenty to dissect. Honestly, this show, I told Sunspots, who is the moderator of this series by and by, this series is like hitting a good sweet spot for me. I love when there is camp, but it's combined with really dramatic horror stuff. So if you have like campy elements, but there's also like drama and horror, I think that's why I watched Jurassic Park on this channel last month. And I think that's why I like Jurassic Park so much, because there's not a lot of camp in Jurassic Park, but there's like some funny humor and stuff and some cheesy moments, but then it's just like combined with all the horror and drama. That's my jam. And usually like mystery shows give you that same kind of like camp meets drama horror angle, and I'm all about it. So surprisingly, Gunbuster has kind of like scratched a nice little itch, and I can't stop. And I'm sad because Patreon has voted to just watch the 6 episodes. So y'all voted on Patreon for me to just watch these 6 episodes. So maybe one day I'll get to Die Buster, one day I'll get to the movie, whatever. But for now, y'all have voted for me just to watch this. So I'm like, fine. I guess that's what we're gonna do. But anyway, I'm really excited about this episode 4, as you all can probably tell. Real quick before we start, I want to give a shout out to our philanthropy tier over on Patreon to thank you all so much. Patreon is my means of support for this channel. So if you want to support me and my reactions and also take part in the polls to see what's going to replace this series, because that's going to be happening pretty soon, then you might want to go over, check out on Patreon. There's different tiers for all different types of people that want to support. So I want to give a shout out to our philanthropy tier though, because they get that right in these videos. And that includes Alex Cornejo, Anime Annie, as well as Be Happy, Dana, Damage3245, Devorin, Danger Zone, Alexandra Q, Destiny Marie, Ichu, Eric, Fisho, Ghostly Turnip, El Freya, Liam Polzel, Linden, Matthew Palfinier, Murphew, Adam Perez, Nicholas, Sunspots, Shimoyama, Translucent Men, El Cuno, as well as Starman AA and Bisa. Y'all are amazing, so thank you for supporting me. I appreciate it. All of my love. Whew! So yeah, about that, this episode, we probably need to get started on it. And my dogs are gonna be really grumbly. I don't know why. I gave them new bones the other day, and so now they're fighting like a bunch of mechas out in space. So if you hear some grumbling, that's what it is. Anyway, we're gonna start episode 4 of Gunbuster. See what happens, y'all. And we're gonna do that here in 3, 2, 1, and I'll see you all on the other side. So we're going to take our time and just build up the battle against the space monsters this episode. And then in episode 5, we'll have the battle with the space monsters and it'll lead to the climax. And then episode 6 will be the resolution. Or we'll do the whole battle in episode 4 and leave you with 2 episodes where you're like, what are we doing now? I had all the theories. I was like, oh, we're just going to be setting stuff up this episode, doing some training for the Gunbuster, going through Noriko's existential crisis about losing Smith. And then I thought we were going to have like the battle and stuff take place over the course of the next 2 episodes, but nope. And they had like the credits and everything, but then it said to be continued at the end. So the big question now is like, where do we go to from here? I have no idea. And I'm recording this before I go on my vacation. So I'm going to take it's going to basically be a week and a half before I find out episode 5. Because I was like, I couldn't wait. I wanted to record this early. So on the one hand, I have no clue where they're going from here. On the other hand, I'm kind of glad that this episode didn't end on a cliffhanger because that would have sucked. So... okay. All right. Well, we need to talk about this episode, I guess, and go through it because I'm just kind of floored. I really, really thought this was a great episode. Anno's like, no, we're going to get down to the nitty gritty. One thing about Anno that I know from watching Neon Genesis Evangelion is that when Anno wants to have a battle sequence, Anno's like, we're just going to do it. And it's going to happen. And we're not going to waste no time. And that's what I really like about Anno and his sense of direction when it comes to getting the fight scenes and the sequences. They are tense. They are dire. It feels like there are stakes. You're like, how are these people surviving? We don't know. And then somehow they do. And you're like, I guess. The whole thing about the spaceship, like, at least during Neon Genesis, and this is not spoiling anything with that series, but you're on Earth for the series. So if a ship is damaged or something happens, you're on Earth. And so you have a chance to go somewhere else. Now that their ships are all like destroyed and halfway like torn apart in the middle of space, how are they getting back into warp drive? How are they getting back to Earth? Are they stranded out in space? What are we doing with that? So there are lots of questions, and the series can do either one of a couple things. They can either create a very realistic explanation, and it's a lot more dire than it seemed this episode by the end of it, or they could just be like, screw it, we'll fix things, because space and future. So I don't know. I don't know what the route that they're going to choose to go on with that is going to be, but we started without an OP. No OP this time. No OP this episode, and I was like, oh, okay. And they didn't need the OP because we're going to go right into the battle against the Exelion and how that all works. Just go right to Gunbuster, launch the unfinished ultimate weapon. Well, it worked out pretty damn good for there. The lore with the space monsters is fascinating to me, where we find out that they come from the center of the galaxy, the heart of the galaxy, and that they lay their eggs into these young stars and they're incubated and expand from there. It's wild. I love the sci-fi horror behind it. It's very it's like body horror but in space using suns. It's really crazy. But they have these behavioral patterns. I also love the fact they go through each person getting ready. Every time this series does something really, really good with every time it cuts to an extra or something in the background. It's like there is no extra detail left unturned. And that is something that I appreciate so much because it has such good replay value. You can go back and look at every single little nook and cranny of this episode, and there is something happening or some detail or some little addition to the animation. It's just like all this extra stuff is crammed in there, and your eye doesn't exactly know where to go, and it doesn't linger long enough for you to really narrow it down, so you just kind of have to go back and rewatch it to get all the fine details, which I appreciate. This one guy, though, this one scientist, he's like, I wonder if the one scientist was a callback to George Romero's like Day of the Dead, or not Dawn. There's Night of the Living Dead, which is the first one. There's Dawn of the Living Dead and Day of the Dead. The one that is not the mall in the 70s, but the one that takes place like on the army camp. I think that's Day of the Dead. I think that's that one. Or it might be Dawn of the Living Dead. One of those two. I'm going to look it up now because I need to know which one it is. Dawn of the Living Dead. Is it Dawn of the Living Dead's in the mall? So it's Day. Let me see if that's right. Yeah, Day of the Living Dead, right? Yep, Day of the Dead. George Romero's Day of the Dead, 1985, which would have came out 3 years before this one. I think so, yes. So the scientist here that talks about the aliens and the space monsters and what they're after, he reminds me of one of the scientists that's in Day of the Dead who kind of hints at the reality of the zombies and everything and saying that humanity is an infestation. It's the Earth. And they're like, well, wouldn't they want to use our suns to incubate? That seems most logical. And they're like, to them, stars are just parasitic hosts. What they aim to achieve is to eliminate all of us. If we are bacteria infesting the living body of our galaxy, then they are the antibodies who will find and destroy us. That's so freaking cool the way it's explained. And when the one guy's like, us, bacteria, and the scientist is like, yeah, kind of. We just occupy space and we wreck shit and we steal stuff and ruin environments. We are literally a disease. He's basically saying that the galaxy is viewing humanity as a disease and they're trying to eradicate us. It's such a great twist. And because at first I was like, do the space monsters have like a consciousness and the ability to think critically? That's not it at all. It's literally they're programmed in their DNA to cleanse the universe of unwanted infestations or diseases that are harming it, and humanity has become a disease that's harming it. So it's literally the white blood cells and the antibodies that are coming in to just take us out. I love the explanation. It's so good. And that big detailed picture behind of the space monster, like the queen host, and we get to see all the little like crab-like ones that are like flying out of her. Oh my God, it's so good. It's like got rainbows and feathers and scales and all this. And they show like the inside of its body and like the way that the guts and everything are made up in the interior of it. People had to draw this. People had to think this up. It's just like a little thing, just like a tiny alien, like it's just all the intricate details that go into making this alien. It's so cool. It looks like it came out of a science book. It's just, God, it's so wonderful. And he's like, do you think not? From the galaxy's perspective, humanity has no useful purpose. We are cosmic trash. God, it's good. The lighting on his character is great. That whole sequence, chef's kiss. Beautiful. So then we cut from a very hyper serious discussion about space monsters and how they basically view humanity as bacteria and a threat to the galaxy and they want to wipe us out. We cut to Andromeda cakes. Because that's what you do. God, they don't make shows like they do in the 80s. I feel like the 80s just had a really good way with the humor of it to transition from something super serious to something that's completely mundane and irrelevant and could do it on a dime. And it was just, mwah. I feel like it's such an 80s trend. But yeah, let me tell you, Coach Oda's got some Andromeda cakes. Let me have this. So yeah, you know what? I'm going to give Gunbuster some props in this episode. From episode 2 to now, we've shown restraint. Gunbuster has shown restraint. They just gave us a few little butt cheeks and maybe a tiny nip slip from Kazumi, but they honestly, they could have just had those shower doors wide open and naked bodies everywhere, and they showed a lot of restraint. I'm proud of Gunbuster. Good job, Gainax. Good job. Good on ya. And then poor Noriko. The thing that gets me, and here's my thing. This episode was amazing, and I loved this episode so much. Somebody in the comments for episode 2 said that their hot take was that they thought that this series was better than Neon Genesis. And I was like, that's a bold statement to make 2 episodes in, right? And I will say that there are a couple moments in this episode that I'm like, that just cut to the core of me and was like, oh, that's perfection. That's so good. The opening scene here with the monsters is really, really good. But for me, I'm all about character development. And it's hard for me, since Gunbusters is only 6 episodes, and I'm saying this as of right now, 4 episodes in, like 2/3 of the way through. We still have 2 more episodes, which could drastically change my opinion, so don't hold me to saying this for now. For now, I still like Neon Genesis better because it is longer and there is more time to spend with the characters and draw out those developments. Now, there are things that this series does really well, and this episode particularly does amazing, that I like maybe a little more than Neon Genesis, and we'll talk about it. I'm going to try to steer away from spoilers, because if you've not seen Neon Genesis, I want you to go watch it. I've got reactions on the channel. Have fun with me freaking out. It's a great time. And talking for a long period of time about those episodes. Those episode reactions are long. Discussions are long. But yeah, I do think if I were to add anything into this episode to make it better, it would just be getting some more time with Noriko mourning. Not necessarily with the girls finding out about Smith and her love, because I kind of like that about this episode. I kind of like that nobody knows. They're all making these assumptions of why Noriko is acting the way that she is, and they all like have the rumors started and all this. And Noriko is such a good character. She doesn't let it get to her. She doesn't let it bother her. It's water off a duck's back and she just moves on. I love that about her character, but I wish there'd been just a morsel more time of her to grieve and her to think through it, because she comes to that realization, which, I mean, no time like the present, and we'll talk about that when we get to the space monsters attacking. It was like do or die, and once the space monster battle starts happening, it's like love, and I'll gush about it here in a second. But and it's really weird, because on the one hand, I want a little bit more, but that's also me being super greedy, because the way that this episode handles the pacing of it is also really damn good. So I can't get mad at it. But I'm greedy and selfish, and I want Noriko to have more time to grieve about Smith. And that's just me personally, but I can't fault the episode for it, because it actually paces it really damn well. And I'm like, And then when you look back, you're like, no, it actually works out really good, because Noriko is such an amazing character. Noriko, her self-loathing made me so sad for her. And I was just like, girl, no, don't be self-loathing. Don't let this get to you. Don't be like that. No. And I just wanted to like give her the biggest hug and be like, girl, it's okay. Like you felt so bad for her. Now, I will say, Noriko's self-loathing is really sad. This is my controversial hot take, and we still got 2 more episodes, so I may change my mind. I may be eating my words as we speak. Do I like Noriko better than Shinji? I do. I do like Noriko better than Shinji right now. I like her arc, and this episode's amazing. I think her arc in this episode is just so damn good, and we're going to talk about it. But do I like her better than Shinji? Oh god, I kind of do. And I may change my mind in 2 episodes. The next 2 episodes may just blow that to shit, and I may be like, never mind. But for right now, I kind of like her better than Shinji. I do. My thing, again, I don't want to spoil Neon Genesis, but I'm going to talk a brief second about Shinji, and this is just in general, like within the first few episodes, you're going to know what I'm talking about, so it's not really spoilers, but skip ahead 30 seconds if you don't want to hear this. But I feel like Shinji comes at it not from a self-loathing perspective with his character, so much as he's just really hard on himself and depressed most of the time, Whereas Noriko kind of injects some humor into it. And if you know anything about a lot of comedians, a lot of them will say, well, the comedy that I use is to mask the fact that I'm deeply emotionally troubled or going through a lot. And so I use comedy as a way to mask that, to kind of hide that pain. And I feel like this episode does such a good job of having Noriko kind of do the same thing, where she masks that pain by kind of this self-deprecating humor, where she's just like, oh yeah, I'm on trash duty today. I just gotta go do that, and it's fine. And when, especially when her and Jung have the argumentation and the fight, and we'll touch back on that when we get to it, because I have a few things connecting to Neon Genesis I want to say. But the fact that she's just like, well, there's no way I could fight you, actually. You can't not like Noriko. She's just so lovable. And when she's self-deprecating and sad, you know where it's coming from. You know why she feels so guilty and so sad. And it's so relatable and it's heartbreaking. And you just want to give her a big hug. But you also want to root for her to do the right thing and to be brave. And then it pays off in this episode. And it's so badass. And I'm just like, okay, all right, show, that'll do. That'll do, pig. So yeah, she's like, I'm on trash. And the thing of it is, she doesn't get mad and try to fight the rumors. She knows they're talking about her. She knows. But she's so sad about Smith that she just kind of like lets it go. And she's like, whatever. And so then this one girl, she's like, oh, well, big sis dumped her, so she just found someone else. And the fact that none of them know about Smith, the fact that none of these girls know about Smith is just blew my mind. But really, honestly, they don't interact with the guys on the ship except for that truth or dare thing. And that was just happenstance that her and Smith ran into each other. And then afterwards, they ran into each other more afterwards because Smith was pursuing her. He was flirting with her, and he was like actively making it to where, like, if you like someone, you just happen to show up where they work. And you're like, hey, you, fancy meeting you here. And that was literally Smith last episode. So none of these girls know about him. And they're not talking to any of the boys on the other side. So they don't know about all of this. And the guys don't really even know, because it seemed like Smith kind of kept it personal to himself. So the series does such a good job of making it to where Noriko is kind of isolated. She has nobody really to talk to about Smith except Coach, because Coach was there when they did the truth or dare thing. So narratively, it's seamless the way it's written. It's so damn good. I love it. So yeah, then Jung's like, did you two really split up? And she's like, well, in that case, maybe I have a shot at getting a date. But she's talking about, and I like that she says about the getting the date, and Kazumi looks at her like, are you talking about me, the coach? And she's like, I mean, with Noriko. I meant with Noriko. And Kazumi's like, sure. Which I think Kazumi's whole thing, Amano, was to not have Noriko work with her because she knew Noriko wasn't ready, and she didn't want Noriko getting hurt, or worse, her getting hurt because of Noriko. And it's like, well, after the whole incident with Smith, yeah, I could see why you'd think that. So, like, Amano, she wants to protect Noriko, but at the same time, she also wants to use the Gunbuster. And I kind of feel a little bad for Amano, because Amano's this, like, girl that wrote this top-notch physics paper that clearly has the brains to pilot the Gunbuster, but the coach is like, nope, this one. And it's like, which I'm still curious about. I'm assuming maybe in the next episode or two we'll find out more about that. But yeah, she takes the trash out, takes it there, and she takes basically her suit to the locker rooms to go get changed. This whole scene where there's like the people on the deck sunbathing as the escalator, walkway goes by, it reminded me a lot of WALL-E for some reason. But yeah, Jung is hanging out with this blonde on the brig, the coast of waves. I love it. She's hanging out here, and as she walks by, that swimsuit that Jung is wearing, which no cross necklace here, that swimsuit, girl, that is being held up by a prayer. She must pray to that cross necklace every night, because that top is held on by a prayer. I'm like, again, like the one girl has the one piece that's green and orange. That would make sense. That one's fine. That one thing that Jung is wearing, I'm like, girl, it's like you tried on a kid's top knowing it wasn't going to fit. I'm like, I don't know. I'm trying to imagine like the physics of of this bathing suit that just the triangle doesn't even cover the whole breast. It's just like nipple covers and then it's just tied together. I'm like, look, there is no practicality to that. The laws of physics do not support that bathing suit top, and your boob would be sliding out because again, I don't know if you animators know this, but gravity will make that boob fall down. And what would happen if you were wearing this bathing suit in real life and you had as big of boobs as Jung does? Now, see, look, I don't have a lot of boob space here, so I could probably pull that off because there's not a lot of real estate that the triangles has to worry about. So if you were a small-breasted woman, you could wear a bathing suit like that because even with gravity, you've got some cushion there. What's going to happen is immediately when she sits up in that chair, she's slightly reclined. When she sits up, that boob is popping out and that little bathing suit top is going to go boop and come up like that. It's going to happen. This is Romania Black teaching you bathing suit physics 101 to every horny otaku animator out there that thought this was logistically possible. Meanwhile, we cut to someone who is not horny on main for any woman, but is in fact horny on main for the memory of his dead captain and for mechs, and that is Coach Oda. So Coach Oda's like, where have you been? You're late. Now, what's funny is this piece of machinery that she's training with is not the Gunbuster, but like some light version or like demo version of it that's connected, that's like the teaser. I'm still a little bit interested in knowing. I'm assuming what we're going to find out is connected to trying to see how I want to phrase this. I feel like in the next 2 episodes, we need to find out more about Coach Oda's motivation, because that part is still one of the most, like, we've gotten the space monsters. That part's explained. That was explained very well in the first 5 minutes of this episode. Like, done. Got it. We got all we need to know. Boom. Good. Noriko's character is pretty well explained. Jung and Amano have assumed the position of side characters rather well. So there's that. And we're going to get the Amano scene later and Jung scene later. Again, this episode paced out the interactions with each of them very well. And I was like, good job, show. But Oda is the one aspect about this show that I feel like the show has not told us something important about his obsession, and I feel like we have 2 more episodes, so that will probably come up, because all we know is that he was on the ship that the captain was on when the space monsters attacked, and he was saved by the captain. The captain sacrificed himself to save Oda, put him in the last space pod, and ship him back. And he has his injuries have caused him to be disabled because of it. And he is obsessed with the idea of this Gunbuster, who he believes, or who we suspect, it was confirmed or otherwise, that her dad could pilot, and he thinks that she can as well. Again, knowing that Ano, after this, did Neon Genesis, there are so many directions this could go that I'm like, is it gonna get that weird? Is it gonna get that weird? I don't know. Because all I will say about Neon Genesis is, if you've not watched that series, it gets weird. It gets weird in like a Twin Peaks kind of way, where you think it's one thing and then at the last minute you're like, oh no, and then it's like something totally different. So far, in comparison, this has been a much more straightforward narrative and a much more straightforward story. But because I know it's Ano, and because I know it's Gainax, I'm teetering on the line of, is this going to get freaky weird in the last 2 episodes? Because it seems like we've resolved all the conflicts. So what could these last 2 episodes be about now that we've resolved all the conflicts? So I don't know. So I'm like, is it going to get really weird? Or since this is pre-Neon Genesis and Ano was just dipping his toes, getting his feet wet, is it going to be more conventional? I'm excited to find that out when we get to episodes 5 and 6, but I don't know. But Oda, I feel like there's something else about his motivation, and I kind of feel like he's also kind of has that Ishmael vibe of Moby Dick where he's looking for something that he can't find. And I'm like, well, the space monsters were destroyed. You used the Gunbuster. You got what you wanted. So what now? Did you find your white whale, Ishmael? What do we do? And I don't know. So I'm going to be curious to see what we get. He's like, from turn off to break off, we're going to go through this. Now, could I say something about the angle in which she's positioned where her poussée is in display of all of us? I could, but what good is it going to do us? It's only for a few seconds. I do want to say that I like that Zheng's outfit is the pink and white top and the red bottoms, while the other girls are red bottoms, pink and white, or pink bottoms, red and white tops. I thought it was an animation error at first, but it is in fact not. So yeah, so she's doing all this, and she's like, pattern A is complete. And he's like, you're not going fast enough. In 3 minutes, the enemy could have traveled from Mars to the moon. So you've got to get faster. He's like, Takaya, remember this. The only one who can protect you is you. Some of his phrasings, I will say, some of Oda's phrasings are a little bit like generic, like only you can prevent forest fires. You know, one of those. But you may never sacrifice another's life for your own. That feels so cryptic. And I'm like, why would you be saying that? So, I mean, technically her dad sacrificed his life for Oda's. Is he telling her, don't be like your dad and sacrifice yourself for someone else? But, I mean, I'm assuming maybe that's what Smith did as well. But Smith, we don't know what Smith did. That's part of the reason why I think Smith's death is so effective, is we don't know exactly what he did. Like, did he sacrifice himself to save her? Was he just attacked out of nowhere and didn't see it coming? Because the show doesn't show us, it's like, we don't know. But but then he says you may never sacrifice another's life for your own. What we do know is that Takaya's or Noriko's dad didn't do that. He didn't sacrifice anybody's life for his own. He sacrificed his life for Oda's. So I don't know what that is about. Unless Oda, has there been an unreliable narrator this entire time? Because Oda basically said that the captain sacrificed his life to save Oda, and that's what we've been led to believe. Is that correct? Or have we been fed a false narrative? And we're going to find out in the final hour that did Oda sacrifice the captain and save himself? And it's been a lie this whole time. We're going to find out the truth in the last 2 episodes. I don't know. But it's a weird thing for him to say, because Noriko is not the type of person that would sacrifice somebody else for herself. If you want to protect yourself and save your friends, you have to work for it. It's a weird thing for him to say, because I don't think Noriko would ever sacrifice someone else for herself. But that's weird for him to say. It almost feels like, is he projecting his own insecurity in that moment? I don't know. But yeah, so then of course, Zheng sees that she's piloting the test weapon, and she gets mad about it. And she's like, well, why might you be here? I thought you went out for Andromeda cakes. And she's like, oh, well, you know, no one wants to hang out with a loser like me. I feel so sad for her. Like, Noriko, girl, that's not true. And then, man, I didn't notice the bandages and the bruises until Zheng holds up her arm. Also, how is Zheng piloting anything with nails like that? Like, girl, how? But I kind of like that we see that Noriko has been working while training with the machinery. It also kind of has some references to, like, I'm not saying she's self-harming herself, but there is like a tie of she's working herself and practicing herself until she's injuring herself. So there is like a self-harm angle with it. She's like, should we put it to the test? And she's like, oh, well, that would hardly be a fair fight. And she's like, no, I'm not saying you beat me. I'm saying that I'd probably lose to you. And she's like, you're getting special training on using the new weapon from the coach. Your breakup with Amano was a ruse too, wasn't it? Now, at that point, Noriko's like, no, that breakup was quite real, and I'm still not happy about it. And so then they decide to face each other. Which I love that. I love that it is a callback to that it was the second episode, right? Right? No, it was the first episode. Right? No? Oh my God. I was thinking of, in the reaction, this was a callback to two specific things. One, it was Jung versus Amano, and Noriko was like, hey guys, let's not fight. Like, it's a callback to that, only now Amano's not present, and Noriko and Jung are fighting. And two, back in episode 1, it wasn't Jung that was fighting Noriko. It was the other girl, like Fivehead, the girl that had like the giant widow's peak. It was her, but she was antagonizing Noriko, and Noriko wasn't defending herself. And now we call back to that, only this time she's like, I'll defend myself against Jung. Or well, she would. And they built it up really, really well. But then, nope. She's like, and I liked the way that before we got to that revelation, you have Jung on the one hand that she's like, Oda chose Noriko from the start. Not Amano, not me. He chose this girl for the Gunbuster project, and I don't know why. Meanwhile, you have Noriko who's like, I'm a Gunbuster pilot. I was chosen. It doesn't matter what Big Sis says or what Jung and the others think. I have to do this. So I kind of like that. I like that you have the jealousy of Jung because she wasn't chosen. And she's like, well, it should have been me. Why wasn't it me? And then you have Noriko who's like, well, I was chosen, so gotta go through with it now. Like, it just makes for a really good contrast. But man, she's like, I've got to do this for Smith. But I also like that the moment she gets up there and gets into space and sees the vastness of it, which again is a great callback to the very beginning in episode 2 when Amano was like, when the coach said the depth of space, don't let it fool you. And now we see it called back again. I appreciate the show pointing out that PTSD is a real thing and that it is very debilitating. Now, apparently, if you're like Noriko, you can conquer it later on. But I thought that was a good twist that she doesn't get to fight Jung because she just has a panic attack and it's just too much. And she doesn't want to go out into space. And then afterwards, I like that you have the tiniest barrier between Amano and Jung arguing, and Noriko like supposedly passed out, but she's really not. And she was like, we're just going to set a little score in space. She's like, I guess there was no need for that. I love the smack. Like, the mono smack that she gets her is, oh, it's so good. And it even wakes Noriko out of her funk for a second. And she's like, how pathetic. Are you any better? I like behind Jung it says, Space Radiation Syndrome Eradication Week. Oh, the little details. The littlest details. It's so good. And she's like, are you any better? You wanted to be in the Gunbuster, but he chose her, not you or me. But the next time she goes out into space, she's going to die. I thought the emphasis on the scissors and everything with the human body, that was, for a second, I thought something was going to happen with those scissors, and then it didn't. But yeah, poor Noriko, she's just tore up about Smith and him dying, and she thinks she's not far behind him. Like, the series does a great job of portraying grief and post-traumatic stress disorder. Like, it's great. So yeah, then we have this scene with Amano and the coach. And we have the coach with, behind him on the wall is a big piece of paper that says heart on it, which I was like, again, I had a crazy theory. I had a crazy theory start in this episode that I believe was proven quite wrong. But because this is related to Neon Genesis, I was like, okay, what's the weirdest thing that could happen? And one of my theories was with the heart behind him. I thought that maybe, kind of like Moby Dick and everything, that Oda was drawing the space monsters to the ship because he wants the Gunbuster project to get off the ground and to be tested. And because Noriko wasn't going at the speed that he wanted her to go to get ready, I thought he initiated the explosion on the ship to get things into disarray and then to either draw the space monsters towards them or to get the space monsters to show up right when he did the explosion so it would look like it. There's an aspect of myself that doesn't trust Oda. There's a part of me that doesn't trust Oda. There's just a little mystery with him that I'm like, I can't put my finger on it. And I'm like, I feel like there's one piece of the puzzle we don't have yet. And I'm like, okay, Oda, but why? And so I can't explain it any other way, but there's a part of me that thought Oda had done all of this to get the space monsters to attack them so that the gunbuster had to be used. That's what I thought. I could be very, 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 very wrong. But this part here, I also thought him and Amano were playing Go against one another, and that is not what is happening. He's playing Go against himself, which again, kind of feeds into that kind of crazy person vibe that Oda has, where it's like he's just playing against himself. He is his own enemy. Because then when it goes back to her, he's like, well, I'm going to keep doing this until it's done, even if she suffers. All of it. And we see the sword next to him and the room with the mask, and there's the Go board and all of that. I don't know. It's just, the Gunbuster was designed with me in mind, she says. So don't you think it's a bit too much for her? And he's like, spare me your arrogance. I love they're both like, spare me your arrogance. And they say it to both of them. It's a machine where you two... Because what does he say there? It's a machine where you two will be as one. So I'm curious about that, because the Gunbuster seemed like it was only piloted by her, by Noriko. So where does Amano fit in on that? If you've got time enough to worry over her, then work on yourself. And she's like, well, you're the arrogant one. How can you think people will simply be whatever you wish them to be? Well, I'm sure that he's like, I'll cause a giant, massive confrontation, and she'll either do it or we'll die. So, I don't know. I also get the vibes of, which again, this is also tied to Moby Dick, also tied to Ishmael, but in Jaws, Quinn's character, whenever the one guy tries to phone the beach and he cuts the lines, that crazy vibe from Quinn in that scene, that reminds me of Oda. And so I can't trust Oda. There's something about him that I'm like, I can't put my finger on it. But he clearly is pushing her. Should you need a tool to satisfy your vengeance, she's like, I would be enough. So yeah, we're talking about, again, this vengeance against the space monsters, all of this. She's like, why don't you just use me and leave her out of it? She's like, I'm the one that did the physics paper. I'm the one that trained for this. I thought we had a thing. Leave her out of this. She's just an innocent lamb. That's all I need to say on the matter. I thought the breeze through the wind chime was interesting, especially given the fact that they're on a spaceship. And then when she opens up the door to leave, he's like, are you done already? The next time she goes in space, she's not going to return. Can one save others if they can't protect themselves? Oh, and that's such a line, because there is a part of it that I feel like he's projecting onto his own insecurities, because when she says, can you save others if you can't protect yourself? Well, the captain had to protect him back on the ship back then, so does he relate back to that at all? He's also such a bitch when he says, are you done already? She's like, spilled milk will never return to the glass. She's like, once Noriko's cracked, you can't uncrack that girl. And then he says, Amano, I'll say one thing. If you spill milk, just pour another glass. That's all. Basically saying, if I make a mistake, if she dies, then I'll just use somebody else. Right? If I spill milk, then I'll just try again. And it's interesting, because she's saying, you know, you've tried this with Noriko. It didn't work. The girl is broken. She can't be fixed. And he's like, well, if I can't fix her, then I'll just start again and give her something new. And it's like, well, you're not wrong, but also that, you know, you could call it wasteful. You could call it arrogant. I love when she turns back to him. I wanted her to smack him. But she didn't do it. So yeah, the final long distance warp in 3 hours. Our current concern is that the enemy will pursue us. So as they're talking about that, we have to avoid that at all costs, as this would be no different from inviting them into the Earth's solar system. So the radar is useless within subspace. We will only exit subspace when directly within Sol. That may seem extreme, but this means pursuit is all but impossible. Well, apparently not, because they find a way to do it. I love that everybody's like going back home, and it'll be 2032 when they arrive in Sol. That's insane, because it's 2021 right now. So they're thinking like in 11 years they'll be back. That's crazy talk. That's crazy talk. What? The crazy thing is the way that time travel works in this series, because you're using light speed, it's like they're going to arrive back on Earth and they're not going to have aged, but the world around them will have aged, if I'm thinking correctly. And that's so bizarre. But yeah, with any luck, we'll catch Halley's Comet just off the starboard bow. I'm like, what if they return back to Earth and it's a shit show? That would suck. I love they're like, not much longer now, sir. This one guy, the side officer, he looks high as hell. Or these guys are going to have an old man Yowie moment in the brig. They were ready to go. They should have taken their time going at it while this monster was attacking. It's like, I'm counting on you. So anyway, Starboard 020, what does it say there? Starboard 2022. So is that the year? Yes. Or Starboard, or it's a block. I love this vending machine space where it's just the seats and the vending machine. I really love that space. Again, it feels very Neon Genesis. And she's like, we'll be back home soon. And she's talking about like going to see Smith's parents and explaining his death. I'm like, girl, you were taking so much responsibility for this. So yeah, so they save the emergency power. Again, this scene where all the girls are like preparing for what's going to happen. I love all the little details. Like in the one bunk bed, the girl has potato chips and they're playing cards. One girl's got like a picture of a guy with a pompadour taped to her bed and like a purse. One girl's got like her L underwear, and they've also got like an umbrella or a flask or something and a Coke and a purse there. And then the queen, the Rose Queen herself, Amano, she has the book by Dazai, No Longer Human. Girl! Girl, really? I do like that they say fashion styles must totally have changed. Yeah, if you go back, you know, at that point and that much time has passed, that would be the wildest thing. To return back and like decades have passed. Insanity, but you haven't aged that much. That's wild. Yeah, if you're not familiar with No Longer Human by Osamu Dazai, it's in Bungo Stray Dogs, it's mentioned, and I think I have that book and I need to read it. But yes, it was also translated as A Shameful Life, a 1948 novel by Japanese author Osamu Dazai. It tells the story of a troubled man incapable of revealing his true self to others, who instead maintains a facade of hollow jocularity, later turning to a life of alcoholism and drug abuse before his final disappearance. The original title translates as Disqualified as a Human Being. And then, or A Failed Human. The book was published 1 month after Dazai's suicide at the age of 38, which, too young, my dude. No. But anyway, I feel like I'm curious if that entire point is maybe talking about Oda more than it is about her, because he does have like, Oda seems very troubled, horrendously troubled, especially by the fact that he has survivor's guilt. And he also seems to hide it behind this stoic, hollow expression where he's super serious about everything. But I'm like, I feel like he has all this emotion under the surface and he's just not acknowledging it. And maybe she's trying to read up on it to figure out, you know, what she thinks. They're like, let's buy some swimsuits and go to the beach. So yeah, I like that they have on the little teleprompter screen there, it says warp and then it says warning later on. And he's like, how is the Gunbuster? And he's like, well, we need more time for checks on the degeneracy reactor. And he's like, well, honestly, I'm hoping we're going to make it back to Earth without needing to use it. So, but keep at it. So yeah. So it's interesting that they say, yeah, well, hopefully we're not going to have to use it. And then, good looky there. So yeah, the accelerators go off. I love all the details. The details with the launch are amazing. All of it is so good. And they all start going back. Noriko's sitting there. And then everything's going so well. But somehow space monsters do not care about the Newtonian mechanics applying in subspace. So space monsters don't care. They're like, we're going to stop you in mid warp drive and make you come out of it so that we can attack your ship. Yeah. Crazy. This entire battle was so much fun to watch. They're like warp exit, warp entry, full speed. Like, this entire thing was so good. But yeah, it's like the ship's, the spot where the ship was attacked looks eerily similar to where the Luxion was attacked. So I wonder if it's connected to the same space monster. But yeah, they all end up out there. And they're like 12% of the fleet were able to exit subspace. So 12% of the fleet, all small craft, were destroyed. So then they say, no, correction, make that 12 ships, period, other than ours. So only 12 ships made out of subspace. The rest all kept going or have been destroyed, I guess. Because then there's all these space monsters that start to attack. I love the space monster where it's like heartbeat. It's like, and it's like a living ship. Again, Neon Genesis, you took notes. So yeah. So everybody starts to go. Noriko gets left behind. Linda takes her ship, which, R.I.P. Linda, that death was horrific and super grotesque. But again, they go back to Noriko's room and like she's just sitting there under the bed saying they've all been launched. And she's like, here's what's going to happen. She's like, am I just going to die here on this ship? But this battle, it was so well done. Like, the space monsters were intimidating and terrifying. And I don't know how this ship is still in space functioning. I don't know how it hasn't completely blown up, because it seemed like it took an insane amount of damage. And then the torpedoes didn't affect the monster at all. There's just lasers firing everywhere. And I'm like, how are they not hitting each other? How does that work? And then these like little mini crab monsters that look like crab octopus. That's crazy. Like, it almost looks like a sand flea. And then she's like, there's more incoming. And now we see what had attacked Smith's ship. And now it makes more sense of how it just came out of nowhere, got him, and then ripped him apart. That all makes sense now. Because yeah, Zheng's, like the little sand spider, the little space spider, it gets Zheng's legs. And then it ends up getting the middle of Amano. Meanwhile, Noriko is crying because she doesn't think she can do anything. I love the shot. She's like, if it's true, if I go out there, I'll die. I love the mirror where she has the mirror hanging and we get like the reflection of her tears. And then there's her dad right there right below it. Even the coach sees it now, and that's why he's dropped me. Not one person needs me. And she's like, I'm basically going to die crying here, essentially. Does that mean I'm going to die crying? And then, yeah, oh my God, R.I.P. Linda. That death, no, that death was terrifying. Nope, that was horrifying. Nope. So good. Also, I'm like, who is on the television poster there? But I love, at this point in the episode, I loved that we had this moment of Noriko kind of coming to terms with what she needs to do. Because she's like, okay, I've been lamenting about Smith this whole time. I've been left behind by everybody. Either I need to do something or we're going to die on this ship. Those are my options. And I might die out in space anyway. It's kind of like, she's like, if I go out in space, I could die. But if I stay on the ship, I'm going to die too. So which is better? Which is the better option? Do I go out and try to avenge, the me that was there with Smith? And I love that we have just the moment of the silence. Like, the ship's getting attacked. Like, her tears have dried up. She's sitting there just thinking. We don't get any interior monologue. It's just her, like, just looking out, and we can feel the emoting and the frustration that she has in that moment. And I love that you don't get to see it, but when it cuts to the next shot, she has the bandana tied all the way around her head already. And she's like, no, we're going to go. We're going to do this. And so the radar isn't working and everything. And she's like, who I was, Smith, dies with you. I love this line. This line is so badass. And she puts it on with the Gunbuster. And who I will be lives starting now. No more tears, no more helplessness. I'll see this through standing on my own 2 feet. It's so badass! I'm like, yes! And I'm like, girl, I love that she had mourned him this whole episode and came to realize she's like, no, the old me died with Smith. I'm not going to let that happen. I'm going to do whatever I can to survive. Now's the time. Okay, talk a little bit about Neon Genesis. So for a hot second, when I'm done waving my hands, I'll be back to talking just about Gunbusters and not Neon Genesis. But one thing that I really love about Noriko's character is she goes through this arc of mourning and grief, and she has this depression, and it's palpable, it feels real, it's relatable. And then in this do or die scenario, she's like, I just gotta do the damn thing. And here's what we're going to do. Okay. And she just, it all like comes down to it and she commits and girl gets it done. I can't say the same for Neon Genesis. And honestly, I love Neon Genesis for that because this is what you expect. This is the story of the hero, the underdog hero, triumphing and getting over and conquering that hill and just making it over the edge and doing what needs to be done. This is the power fantasy moment of like just, it's so satisfying. But I will say, I'm not going to diss Neon Genesis for what they choose to do because the way they subvert it and make it so horrifying works so well for that series that you're like, ah, shit, no. And so they're like apples and oranges. I love them for different reasons. So end of those spoilers with that. But Noriko's arc here is so good. And the captain was like, okay, we got 42% damage, 85% cannon damage. He's like, the third bridge has been destroyed. We've lost control. And he's like, well, where's the enemy leader? And they're like 35 degrees above us. They're 12,000 kilometers away. And he's like, we're going to ram the bastard before we go. He basically is like, going to do this suicidal attempt. I like Oda's in the background like, well, we probably should get that Gunbuster out. Because he's just like, we're just going to ram the bastard and kill us all. If we're going to go out, we're going to go out swinging. And then no. The Gunbuster looks so freaking cool. It looks so cool. It of all the mechs I've seen, I don't know, the Gunbuster looks really, really good. It looks so good. Classic. Classic. I should have looked at the convention I was at to see if they had Gunbuster models. I bet they did. I've never wanted a model before, but if I did, I might want one of the Gunbuster. I don't know. Maybe these next 2 episodes I might change my mind. But man, they're like, it's not quite finished yet, but it can work for 10 minutes. 10 minutes. We didn't even go by Namek time on these 10 minutes. We were solid on these 10 minutes because we were at like 18 minutes and this is a 26-minute episode. We didn't need those 10 minutes. It was great. It's not ready for sub-like combat. I love that Oda, just like he did in episode 1, takes over the screen. He's like, don't listen to him. You just target the leader. Leave it to Oda. Leave it to him. I love it. And I love the guy, like, Mr. Oda? Like, he looks up at the screen where Oda is, where that wouldn't have been happening in real life. Great. But yeah. And here she goes. I love that she flies past, there's all of the debris, and she flies past Jung and Amano. I love it. It's so good. And then uses the Buster Beam to destroy all the little sand fleas. Oh, it's great. And then she goes after the leader. And the fact that it's just them and the Gunbuster left. They're the last 2 ships, which is, how are they going to do this for next episode? I don't know where they're going with it, but I love that when she goes to face the leader keeps going around her, and she's like, what do I do? And she's like, I have 2 minutes left. I've got to catch it. I'm going to take it and then blow it up once it skewers me. Oh, such a good sequence. It's such a good sequence. I just love that, like, is she suicidal? She's like, no, I'm going to catch this bug. And she asks Smith and her dad to protect her. I love it. The expressions on everybody's faces when she catches it and it drills through the mech, but she has it a hold of it. And the underside of that space monster where it's just like its mouth open and lines of teeth. And the thing about it is Gunbuster is so huge. The mech is so huge. Like one of those little mechs would have just been blown apart instantly. But because the Gunbuster is so big, it could take that attack and then fire its lasers throughout it. And oh, so damn satisfying. I loved that. And then I love the one shot where it's like Oda and the little twinkle in his aviators. I was like, how dare you, show? Come on now. And they're like, where's the Gunbuster? And there it is. And everybody just cheers and laughs. And the one guy's clapping his hands like, oh, hell yeah, we ain't gonna die today. Like, oh. And then you get that sweet 80s in-credit song. Come on now. And goes down there where Jung is. And Amano sees her. She's like, big sis. And like holds her hand out. Like has her in the palm of her little hand. Come on now. And then Jung's looking from the other side like, all right, third wheel it is. Third wheel it is. I don't know. Is Noriko our bisexual queen? I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. I know good and well. Somebody in the comments will be like, there's not going to be any lesbian love in this show. Well, boo on you, but I know that. But we can dream, can't we? And then, yeah. And then Amano's happy. And then the captain down there, Jung, is happy. We cut down to the captain. He's smiling. The first smile he's had, like, all series long. Like, yeah, that Gunbuster worked. So, I'm curious. I really am. Because we've gotten our white whale. The Gunbuster's holding that tiny little robot of Amano's. Jung is safe. It worked. How are they going to get out of space now with all the damage they've sustained? I guess we'll find out next episode. What's next for Oda now that the Gunbuster worked? I don't know. But this episode was so incredible. This episode was so good. I did not anticipate the fight being encompassed in just this one episode, but it was handled really, really well. I will say this. As far as battles go, I liked that it wastes no time. It was scary. It was tense. I honestly was like, are they going to die? I don't know. They could. I really wondered if Amano and Jung were going to die because I thought the series could kill them off. And that was going to be like, you know, the one thing to push Noriko over the edge. I'm amazed that the battle has ended and we haven't suffered more main character fatalities than we have. But again, we have 2 more episodes. A lot can happen in 2 episodes. So, I'm most curious about Oda. Has Oda achieved what he wanted in killing the space leader? Or is there something else that Oda wants? And how does that relate to Noriko? Did Noriko do what he wanted her dad to do? How does all that come full circle? Like, I mean, it does kind of come full circle in that she defeated essentially the same type of space monster that killed her dad. So there's that. I guess if I were to change something else about this episode, but again, I don't know if I'd want to change it. It's just a possibility of what you could add. You could add more about that full circle moment involving her dad, but you don't really need to. And she says she wants Smith and her dad to protect her, so I'm so curious. We have 2 more episodes left, and the contents of this one, I thought we were going to split between the next 3 episodes. So I don't know what we're going to do now, but this was just an amazing episode. It was so good. I could gush about it all day, but I'm going to let you all pick up where I left off and gush about it down below because it's so damn good, and I want to hear your thoughts about this episode down below. Please no spoilers, but we're going to find out next week and the week after the final 2 episodes of Gunbuster what happens, so it's all up in the air from here, so anyway, I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and yeah, I'll be back next week, and we'll just see what goes down with episode 5 of Gunbuster. Bye!